to beyoungministry.blogspot.com, to another podcast out of the book of Ephesians. We're in Ephesians chapter 2, verses 1 through 3 today, which reads, "As for you, you were dead in your transgressions and sins, in which you once used to live, when you followed the ways of this world and of the ruler of the kingdom of the air, the Spirit who is now at work in those who are disobedient. All of us also lived among them at one time, gratifying the cravings of our flesh and following its desires and thoughts. Like the rest, we were by nature deserving of wrath." Ephesians 2, 1 through 3. The Bible teaches we were conceived dead. We were born separated from the life of God with no ability to access Him. I've often heard a lot of people say, "I wasn't there when Adam and Eve chose to rebel against God." That is true. And I've often thought myself, if I had been there, I probably would have done it much sooner than they did. We all know that it's endemic to us to be counter to authority. We all rebel to authority. And we're born that way. I don't like it. You don't like it. And yet, Adam and Eve made that choice for us. In verse 1, the apostle uses transgressions and sins to describe mankind's plight. We are trapped in the clutches of another. And until we acknowledge our need and we cry out to God for help through His Son, we will always be trapped in the wasteland of sin and self. Christianity is the only religion which teaches this condition of man. It is known as original sin. In verse 2, the apostle tells us that we followed the ways of this world and of the ruler of the kingdom of the air. When we were conceived, we were conditioned to conform to the ways of this world by the ruler of the kingdom of the air. We were born to be tricked by this world's god, namely Satan. In 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4, Satan is described as the god of this world. You will remember that according to Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 38 and Revelation chapter 12, Satan was cast out of heaven. Before he was named Satan, which means the one who opposes, he was known as Lucifer. He became so impressed while in heaven with his own beauty, his own intelligence, power, and position that he began to desire for himself the honor and glory that belonged to God. The sin that corrupted Lucifer was self-generated pride. Sin was not created. Sin is the absence of God. It's just like darkness. Darkness really doesn't exist. It's the absence of light. Such is the case with sin. Paul calls Satan the ruler of the kingdom of the air, the spirit who is now at work in those who are disobedient. Satan and his angels, those demonic beings aligned against God, are constantly manipulating mankind to turn us away from God's definition of things to a distorted definition, which brings with it corruption and death. On the other hand, the God of truth, the God of the Bible, is always trying to reveal to us the truth. And He always is trying to set us free from the bonds of the evil one. From the beginning of time, God has given man the option to choose God's way or that of Satan, who appeals to our selfishnesses. In verse 3, we see that gratifying the cravings of our flesh and following its desires and thoughts is the tactic of the devil. The flesh is our basic human nature, which God created. Yet the God of this world, Satan, has lured mankind into crossing over into his controlled domain, taking the normal appetites that God has given us and twisting the way we go about satisfying them. At the end of verse 3, we learn that as a result, we were by nature deserving of wrath. The wrath of God is best described in Romans chapter 1, verses 24, 26, and 28. As God allowed us to go from our own way, the choices we make will have consequences. They will always, be they good or bad, they will always have consequences. And if we make wrong decisions, it hurts us. God's wrath is designed to make us realize that we are violating his definition of things, which is the truth. And when we defy the truth, we will suffer the consequences. For example, when we defy the laws of gravity and try to walk off a 10-floor building, well, it won't end well. When we ignore God's culture, the devil and his cohorts will always be there to alter the quality of our lives, and if we're not born again, to alter our ultimate destiny. My friend, I trust you have trusted in the finished work of the Lord Jesus on the cross. By simply receiving the free gift of forgiveness, we are made right with God. We're justified. And if you've never done that, I would encourage you right now, bow your head, tell God of your need for him. Acknowledge to him that you don't measure up and that you need help, and ask him to come into your life, believing that what his son did on the cross provided for you forgiveness and access to God and his truth. My friends, I trust this podcast is helpful to you in your walk with the Lord. If I could be of any help to you, don't hesitate to shoot me an email at beyoungministry.blogspot. Pardon me, beyoungministry@gmail.com. Hey,